Welcome back, crafters. Right, so this is class 2 for our September launch party, I guess you say. Now this is when you are going to require your strips, your 1" by 12" strips of the As You Grow paper pack, and you're also going to require your sheets of rosemary, the lovely new shade of green that we've got in our range. And we're going to create something a little bit like this one here. So this one, I have taken every strip, and all you need to do to prepare is to cut this into strips of 3 inches. So through the trimmer, cut this up into 3 inches at a time. So you'll get 4 from each strip, and then you're going to have a whole bunch of little strips to work with. Now, what I enjoy doing with this is taking those strips and getting some of the lighter shades in the pack. So the yellow gingham is quite a good one for that, and I stamped some bits and pieces, some little titles on there. So that stamping has come from this month's Stamp of the Month, which is such a fun one. It's got lots of lovely little words in here, as well as your 2 large font titles. So I have used this for my title, so very thankful. And as I say, I have stamped onto some of those little 3" by 1" rectangles. This can be put together in whatever manner you like. So you might choose to have less of these rectangles showing and just build up a tiny little jagged wall along the side. You might choose to have a lot more on here. So it is up to you. You've got quite a few strips here. You've actually got a strip for each side of our patterned paper. So you have got every single design that's in the As You Grow set at your fingertips to play with, and there'll be ample to be able to make a double page of exactly the same style. So just a few tips when you put this together. A journaling pen always looks great if you want to doodle around the outside for a bit of a border. It also looks great if you want to accentuate those little subtitles that you might choose to put on, like I have. Now, I haven't provided you, I don't believe, with any of these sort of cardstock strips. So I was just using up a couple of little strips of paper. So I bought in a little bit of the scraps of cardstock I had lying around as well. Obviously, you can mix and match with your scraps if you prefer to have a few blank pieces like I have on here. Just one other thing to note, I also brought in a different stamp set, which is one of our months of the year stamp sets. I referred to these actually in the previous video, and this one is for May. And what I have done is I put in a lovely little border underneath the word thankful, which is this bottom little floral border down here. And I have also taken this cute little flower cluster and I have stamped it on white daisy a couple of times, and then just cut it out. So got rid of the words, the always remember, and just cut out the little floral arrangement and coloured it in with my Shinhan markers. So that's just a nice little delicate floral that I've added to the title and to balance the photo mat. The other thing I have done is I've brought in the gold thread, which is such a lovely fine look behind my little delicate flower. And I've brought in some of our gold glitter gems as well, just to finish it off. So it's a very easy layout, this one, and you can take it in whatever direction you'd like to take it. But what I am now going to show you is a different variation on using these 3" by 1" rectangles. So I will see you in a minute. I'll just stop the video and get all myself put together again, and then I will show you the new idea of a layout. Talk to you soon. So here's another idea for you. Take your 3" by 1" strips and place them into either 1" or 1/2" or 3/4 inch, whatever thickness you want from that. Now I've done a little alternative here and cut out a circle from our beautiful rosemary cardstock that you've got there. You could choose to just draw a circle line at this point and not have an extra circle in the center and just use your rosemary as the base. So I'm doing it this way so that I can just tuck my pieces underneath, because I happen to be using lots of scraps and some of them aren't 3 inches long, so I'm just trying to get away with it really. You have got all you need to do this style though, with all the strips that you've been given. So I'm going around and I'm just sort of alternating. You'll see I tend to spread out the pattern, so there's at least 3 or 4 of them all around the circle. And I'm just placing them so that some of them are wider and some of them are narrower, and some overlap and some don't. So I do this first by placing, and then I come back with my adhesive. And I typically at this stage would use the close to my heart adhesive because that's the more repositional one. As you can see, I've actually brought in a few of the Harbour and I think possibly, no, I think it was only Harbour in terms of cardstock strips that I added in. Now, I didn't mention earlier, but you do have the 3" by 3" square cardstock sample. Those are to add to any of your other cardstock samplers you may have because they're the perfect size, so with the new colours. But of course, you could be using them here, cutting them all into the 3" by 1" strips and putting them onto your layouts if you don't feel you need them as a little sampler in your toolkit. So here I am going around. I am doing a bit of overlapping, so I do sometimes skip a few, put one down and then go back and overlap the ones beforehand, and I go all the way around. When you're looking at it from above, which I wasn't doing, I do see that I am not quite perfect in my circle, but hey, you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. That's not what it's all about. But if you do want to get a perfect, very even circle, I would suggest you take a photo from above and then look at it, because it is quite hard to sometimes notice if one side's a little bit wider and the other side's a bit narrower when you are looking from an angle. So that would be my suggestion there. So I do quite like having the circle in the center because it gives me that nice sort of neat edge all the way around. However, if you go into our seasonal catalogue, we have this idea shown to us in the mix-in range. So on page 24, you can see what they have done is just overlapped strips without any circle in the center. So it's just a little bit imperfect, which looks lovely. And they have done that with the mix-in paper and some of the pumpkin spice range and a few of the other bits and pieces in the seasonal book. So now I'm going to place where I'll be putting my photos along the bottom. And what I'm going to do is bring in the digital art collection that we now have for the pumpkin spice. Now, if you don't have a Cricut, we have alternatives, and I'll show you those shortly. But this Cricut little kit is beautiful, and the digital art collection can be used on any die cutting electronic die cutting machine. So if you've got a Brother Scan and Cut or whatever, you can use it on there. So you could download it today and start using it right away. So what I'm showing you is that I've grabbed that like neat little notice board and I've stuck the stamp on. I've done some stamping from the Love You Most family stamp set on page 30 in the main core catalogue. However, you could be using the Rustic Sign Sentiment Stampin' Thin Cuts if you don't have any electronic die cutting machine like a Cricut, and that has also got a really cool look of a board, a plank board that you could be stamping on. So those are just a few that you could look at using to decorate if you wanted to do something similar to mine. I do show you at the end that we also have some beautiful die cut flowers now available in our core book. And that is our layered flowers, which are absolutely gorgeous. So if you don't have a digital die cutting machine, there are so many options that you could use to replicate this look. As you see, I'm using that new Quickie pen, Quickie glue pen, and I'm using blocks to help give it a little bit of weight and a bit of pressure to completely stick. And I only had to stick the top half of those leaves. Now I'm layering up with a bit of foam tape just to give it a tiny bit of dimension. I'm only using the thin foam tape here. You could have done the thicker foam tape if you don't mind a bit more bulk in your scrapbooking, because it will have given a little bit more of a shadow. And I'm also bringing in our lovely gold foil thread, which I love putting behind flowers. I just think it gives that soft, neat look with a bit of texture. Now the leaves that come from the digital art collection are rather lovely. They're layered up as well. And I'm just poking those in on top of the big cluster. Now to finish off, I'm bringing in some gold gems just like I did on my original page. And I'm also, you can't see it here, but I've also added a couple of little brassy look dots to go where you'd normally have, I guess, the nails or something on that board. So I hope you enjoy these two options. I'd be really interested to see which one you go for. You've got enough to do a double pager. Maybe you'll do one of each. Maybe you'll choose to do one style but as a double page. But I can't wait to see what you come up with. I hope you enjoy this. Do look at the card idea as well because they are lovely. Talk to you guys soon.